Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. How are you? Hope you're having a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. I'd like to thank you for joining us on today's webinar, Reinventing Technical Support for the Video Surveillance Industry, an intro to the DahuaWiki. Today's webinar is sponsored by Dahua Technology. I am Jillian Bateman, ESA's Director of Marketing, and I will help to facilitate today's webinar. Before we get started, though, let's cover a few housekeeping notes. First, all callers will be muted for the duration of the webinar. At any time, feel free to ask a question by clicking into that section of your control panel. We will reserve some time at the end of the webinar for a Q&A session with our speaker. A recording of this webinar will be available in the resource library on esaweb.org at the end of the day. And without further ado, I am very excited to introduce to you today our speaker. JP Wenger has over 10 years of experience in the IT and security industry. Since 2015, he has served as Dahua Technology USA's lead technical support engineer, leading his team to continually improve tech support resources, processes, and procedures. By conducting continual testing and research and building live product demos, he has become an expert on Dahua's North American products and deployments. As such, he works closely with Dahua's R&D team to provide crucial feedback on the North American market. His expertise extends to training and educating the Dahua USA team on both Dahua products and other security products in the marketplace. JP, thank you for joining us today. I'll now turn it over to you.
Hello, and thank you for having me. Thank you everybody for joining us. My name is JP Wenger, and I'm very pleased to present Dahua USA's official product knowledge base, the DahuaWiki. Today we're going to go over a brief history of what the DahuaWiki is, how it came to be, where it's going, and how this resource can make your life a little bit easier in the security industry. So today we're going to just briefly cover the who, what, where, when, why of the wiki, a couple of up-and-coming features, and a few side projects that we'll be adding to the wiki and the Dahua ecosystem in the near future. Followed up with a brief Q&A session. So if you have any questions, we'll hopefully be able to get those addressed at the end of this. So first off, we'll do a little bit of an overview. Dahua Technology is the #2 security manufacturer in the world, but arguably we're #1 in support. Last year, for example, we got an over 90% first call resolution rate. So that means the first time a customer calls in, their issue is resolved. And we're gonna try to shoot for even better than that this year. Hopefully we can get it up over 95%. Next up, I want to introduce you to the core team for the wiki. It started out for a couple of months just as myself, and since then we've added a few other people. We've added Nathan, Key, and Mark. That's the core team. But the real nice thing about the wiki platform is it allows you to add in additional people and reduce a lot of the bureaucratic delay that occurs with most websites, where you have a bottleneck somewhere and the website just never gets updated, or the content gets updated months after it should have been. This kind of allows us to streamline it. And as the wiki's grown, we've been able to add additional resources and additional people from different departments as the need has been there. So next up, we're going to cover why the wiki exists. Before I started working at Dahua Technology USA, I worked for a security company, and I spent 4.5 years there, and it was a interesting environment. I was new to the industry and I didn't know too much, and this company happened to be purchasing from 3 or 4 of the major manufacturers. So luckily for me, it allowed me to get exposed to just about all the security systems out there. Unfortunately, it also let me see what was lacking, especially from the resources standpoint. We didn't have consistent information. The nomenclature will be inconsistent and change from one document to another. The PDF manuals for most of the products were kind of an all-in-one manual that wasn't really tailored to the product that you specifically had. It wasn't ideal, and I saw a lot of places that could be improved upon. So I started out with a huge database of just a spreadsheet, and eventually was able to turn it into what the wiki is today. So it's primarily born out of frustration. So if anybody out there is having a hard time getting their devices to work properly, I feel your pain. I've helped hundreds of thousands of people set up their systems and troubleshoot them and fix their issues. The wiki is intended to be a self-help resource that ideally would allow you to get these issues resolved without having to call somebody and get walked through whatever the resolution may be. Next up, we'll cover Win. So the Raspberry Pi started out kind of as a pet project. It started out on a Raspberry Pi in late 2015 as just kind of a hobby for myself to try to learn some coding. And I'm a huge fan of the Raspberry Pi. I've bought tons of them for my friends. Just anybody that wants to learn a little bit about coding, Raspberry Pi is a great tool to get familiar with it with little to no consequences. We eventually migrated that up to a proper hosted solution, and have since. It's just always been on the hosted solution. All right, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce the wiki proper. This is kind of a example of a lot of the different features that we have on the wiki, and I've through the years kind of developed a vision for what should be there and what shouldn't, and how the information can be laid out in such a way that it's easy to understand and easy to digest and easy to apply to whatever project you may be working on or whatever devices you may be working with. I'm going to break away from the PowerPoint in just a moment, and I'll go over a couple of those features. So this is the DahuaWiki, and this is going to be the homepage. We've got all the software readily available to download directly from the main page, so you shouldn't have to search for any of the software that you may need. We've also got a litany of instructions for just about every facet of the system, and then as I come up with new ideas or resources that I think would make life better personally for myself and for everybody else, I'll go in and add them as well. Like as we're coming out with H.264 Plus and H.265 Plus, it'd be nice to just be able to quickly go to a web page and pull up those devices, especially if you have a customer that's on limited bandwidth or something like that. This would allow you to quickly identify which devices have it. In addition to that, we've got a lot of other features. I'm going to drop back over to the PowerPoint real quick. I'm going to go back to the features in just a moment. First up, I'd like to kind of go over the traffic. When we first started out, the first year of traffic gave us about 500,000 hits. And now we're up to about 100,000 hits a month or more, anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 hits a day. So there's a lot of people going to the wiki, and I can see that. More importantly than the page hits, though, I can see where everybody's going. So if you look on the right-hand side, you can kind of see the analytical information for the most popular websites for, I believe that's the first year. So with that information, I can then go back and prioritize my resources so that those pages are the best. And with that, we can, ensure where everybody is going and what content is on the site is actually being used and is updated and is as current as it possibly can be. And part of that is the document creation process. We will usually receive a product several months before it hits store shelves. And that'll allow us to go through and test the product and confirm all the settings and the features work as they should. If they don't, we can then go back and work with R&D, get the issue resolved so that ideally before the product even hits store shelves, any potential headache is already fixed. So with that, we get to ensure that the products are working properly, they work as intended, and they work with a minimal amount of headache. It also has another benefit, which allows the technical team to, through this document creation process, get familiar with the product. And as a result of that, the technical support team is stronger and able to address your issues faster and with less delay. All right, so back up to the features. This is a great feature. We've got several product selectors. I'm going to eventually get the HD CBI camera product selector built out as well, but we're constantly going through and improving upon the content. Just to give you an idea, this is going to be the IP camera product selector. And this is really nice because sometimes you might be buying a camera and that camera is out of stock, but you got to find something similar and you're not really sure which models would be similar. Well, with this, say you need a 2 megapixel camera. So you can select the 2 megapixel camera, and then you need it bullet. Yeah, I guess we don't have any right now. Maybe dome. Basically, this tool is going to allow you to find similar camera models or refine out a huge list of cameras into exactly what you need for that location or that project. It's quite robust. I've seen a lot of product selectors in the past, and for whatever reason, the product selectors that I would come across would be missing that one feature that I really wanted to be able to search for. So I could build this out and make this as robust as possible, and ideally have every single specification in here for you to select the right product that you need. Next up, we've got the live demo. This has been probably for the last 6 months, this has been a big focus for us. Get down there. So the live demos are great. This will give you a real world example of how the camera performs. Sometimes it'll be in different lighting scenarios. So you might get multiple cameras in different setups, sometimes indoor, sometimes outdoor. One of the fisheyes, for example, we have posted on the side of the wall. We have another fisheye that's posted on the ceiling. So you can get in and configure those and play with those and get familiar with them. We also have the laser PTZ, which is a great one. And probably the one I'm most proud of is going to be the the codec compression demo. So you can actually, and if you guys get a chance, I would strongly recommend just logging into the wiki. And just a side note, you do not need credentials to access any part of the wiki. So this is all publicly available. You don't need a username or a password or anything like that. So this is the live demo page. This is a real-time updating widget that will tell you if these products are currently set up for remote access, so you don't waste any time trying to log into a device that's been taken down for whatever reason. Sometimes these products have to get sent off to demo somewhere. So sometimes they go down, but at least you don't waste any time trying to find that information. And then all the contact information for this, for all these devices is right here. And the most popular and probably the best live demo is the codec demo. So there's a system that's been set up with 4 cameras, and you can log into that. Channel 1 is set up for H.264, channel 2 Smart H.264 Plus, channel 3 H.265, and channel 4 H.265 Plus. With that, you can log in and actually in real time see the bandwidth savings, and that it's quite impressive. It's far better than I would say than any infograph or anything like that. So if nothing else, I would strongly encourage everybody to log in and take a look at that system, or maybe the laser PTZ, especially at nighttime. The laser PTZ is just amazing. All right. So next up, what's to come for the wiki? I have a lot of ideas and a lot of features that I would like to add. We've recently built out the camera lab, and that's a good start. That will allow us to take example photos. So you'll see at the bottom a handful of different photos that were taken from a model of camera. And if you go to the product pages on the wiki, you can see all the different product example photos. And these will be at different light levels, different light temperatures. This will give you a real good idea of how this camera is going to perform once you get it set up. We also break down the angle of view. Just try to give you as much information as possible so that the expectations are managed accordingly for the products once you get them in your hands. Nothing worse than thinking you're going to have an 80-degree field of view and only having a 15. So this should help with that. And this is going to be the product page. This is kind of how I've envisioned a product page should be. Just the typical wiki info box on the right-hand side, and just as much information relevant to that device on the left. You get the firmware downloads for all the products as well, and the compatible accessories, product diagrams, reset buttons, SD card location if they have it, and the specs proper down at the bottom. And we have the pages like this set up for all Dahua North American products. In addition to that, we have software downloads. We usually try to keep several versions up because sometimes you'll come across a bug with a new version and it just doesn't work the way you want it to. And there's nothing worse than scouring the internet trying to find the old version of whatever device you may be looking for. So we try to index a fair selection of versions of different tools so that you're not stuck somewhere where you can't get something working. All right. Let's see. So we've got the product selector. We also have a product buying guide. This is available for NVRs, DVRs, and IP cameras. And what this will do is if you receive one of our product catalogs and you're going through and you see the specifications and you're like, what is WDR? Well, we have an explanation on the wiki that'll tell you exactly what WDR is, based on what we call it, based on the standards, and we try to give you an honest description and an accurate portrayal of what this information actually means. This is all just to help educate and allow you to understand exactly what the device does before it's in your hands. We also have firmware search tools. So this will allow you to look up at just about any camera. And you can get the firmware downloaded through here if for whatever reason you can't find it on the product pages. Either way, I try to set it up in such a way that there's multiple options and multiple ways to get to the information that you're looking for, because we all tend to not think exactly the same way. So sometimes it works for some doesn't for others. The best is to make it accessible for everybody and try to make everybody's life just a little bit easier with this information. So with that, I think I've covered the majority of what's available on the wiki. There's tons of videos. All the instructional information is standardized. Just to give you an idea, this is the instruction page for the NVRs. and it'll cover a litany of setup instructions, all the way down to the most basic setting up motion recording, all the way to setting up a FTP to record over the network, and everything in between. So all of this information is readily available, and I'm open to any feedback that anybody can suggest. There'll be an icon down at the bottom of the main page that if you have any suggestions or any issues with the site, that's the primary benefit, is that we can always add new features and expand upon the existing content fairly easily. So with that, I would like to thank everybody for joining me on this presentation for the DahuaWiki. One of the side projects that I'm working on in conjunction with the DahuaWiki is the Learn Dahua portal. So with this, kind of as a thank you for attending this presentation, I've put together a Dahua Basics course that'll kind of go over the ins and outs of the recorders and the cameras and other devices, and get you familiar with our software and familiar with how to use all of these different devices. So this will be posted and available. I'll have the course up for several months, so just feel free to log in and create an account, and then you can sign up for the basics course. Shouldn't take you more than 30 minutes to an hour, I would say, and we'll have a quiz posted up at the end, and possibly an activity or two as well.
Thank you, JP, for your presentation. We hope that everyone on the webinar found the content to be informative. We're going to move now into our question and answer segment of the webinar. I have a question here, JP. Where do you get to the camera selector on the wiki? So from the web page, from the Dahua webpage, how do you get over to that camera selector?
So it's going to be this icon right here in the middle. So you can go to the product selector right here, and then I'm not on the fastest of connections right now. And then these are going to be right here.
Great. Another question that's come in, have you thought about getting a list of models that support certain features? So being able to allow folks to search by features.
Yes, the product selector is a step in that direction. On the back end, on the programming side, we've got a couple of new additions, so we'll be able to expand out the toolkit and eventually be able to do that as well.
Okay, I've got another question here. Does the Dahua software and app work with the HRHH and HQA products?
Not sure. I would need to double check that one.
So Bruce, if you want to, we can connect you with JP after the webinar so you can elaborate on that question you had there.
Yeah, that would work. That would probably be best for that one.
Great. And that's the last of the questions that I have. JP, do you want to remind everybody about the course that you had mentioned, just so that's fresh?
Absolutely. So I'm offering a Dahua Basics course on Learn Dahua. So you can go ahead and go to learndahua.com, and that will allow you to click on the Basics course and enroll in it. Here's the information. The enrollment key is Dahua 2017 exclamation point. And that'll be the key that you would need to input after creating your account to be able to enroll in that course.
Fabulous. If there are no further questions, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Dahua and JP for his presentation, and to all of our attendees today for sharing your valuable time with us this afternoon. As a reminder, a recording of this webinar will be available at esaweb.org in the resource library. Thank you all for participating, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.